Well, hello. I'm Sonny Vergara. I'm a photographer. I haven't always been a photographer, but that's what I do now. And we're in beautiful Spring Lake, Florida, part of Hernando County, and we love it here. Well, I'm a Tampa native, Florida native, born in Tampa. Moved to this Hernando County in 1948, so the family's been here like forever. Uh, I grew up here, went to school here, first grade through the 12th grade. Went to University of Florida, went to USF, went to FSU, and finally graduated out in Southern California. So I've been around for those that time and those purposes. But I've been in the Marine Corps, spent a lot of time, a career in water, but got into photography almost as I retired back in 2003. But I have been interested in photography for virtually all my life. In high school, I was, of course, in the camera club. Everybody's in the camera club, and that kind of opened the door. But through most of my life, I really didn't have the resources or the time to get into the hobby of photography. So, but I would read about it and I'd followed it, and had a few educational opportunities to learn about it. And so after I retired, I had the time, I had the resources, and I really got into it, and it just incidentally, that was about the time that digital photography took off. So I had to spend a lot more time learning the digital aspects of photography. And that is the basis of a lot of the photography of mine that you see. It's the digital capability of making the picture what I see it as in the scene. What comes out of the camera isn't necessarily always what I see. So it's called post-processing. And when you get into post-processing, it's the opportunity to make that picture what you want it to be, and that's where the art comes into it. And you try to make the picture meet certain technical standards. It has to be in focus perhaps, or some parts of it may be out of focus. Some of it may be sharp, super sharp. Some of it may be made soft. Colors can be enhanced. You don't want to enhance it too much. A lot of people do that, and it makes the picture look false and not art at all. That's a mistake that a lot of amateurs make, and I don't know if I'm not an amateur, but I've quit making that mistake. So I guess I've moved on beyond that. So anyway, and the camera itself. If you want to be a photographer, you really have to understand the mechanics of a camera. Cameras these days are really small computers. They're, in terms of general function, they're exactly the same as the camera was in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. But how the camera creates the image that you're trying to document or to catch is now electronically done. And so photographers who in the past, before digital photography, had to know the camera, the three components, aperture, speed, and then the sensitivity of the film. Those are the three things that you had to know how to do to get the image correctly. So it's still the same way, but those things have changed a little bit because digitally, electronically, it's controlled. And so you have to know how to tell the camera how you want to manipulate those controls. So anyway, once you've done that, after you've really learned what the camera is supposed to do, and then how your particular camera is going to do it, and how you're going to make it do it, then you have to get the image, which is now a digital image, out of the camera, and put that through a post-process. And typically, your more learned, I guess, photographers use Photoshop. And Photoshop is like computers today. If you have a laptop or a phone, you probably know how to use about 10 or 20% of it. Photoshop is a lot like that. I don't know anybody that knows everything about Photoshop, and I don't think I know more than about 20%, 10 or 20%. But what I do know is what I need to make my photographs the way I want them. And there's another aspect of photography that perhaps gets controversial, because a lot of artists, painters, and I don't hold this against them at all, don't consider photography a true art, because in the beginning, the camera and filming was meant to document. It was meant to record the reality that this person saw and wanted to maintain that image so that it could be preserved for history or for journalism, for newspapers, that sort of thing. So, but today's photographers have gone beyond that, or can go beyond that if they wish to, and I wish to. So when I make a photograph, it's not to document what is there, the physical thing that I'm looking at. I want to catch and make it say something to whoever else is going to see that image after me, after I've made it what I want it to be. And if it doesn't say anything to anybody else, it's not worth making. So it has to say something. But that's art. If art makes you move, makes you think, makes you emote, makes you sing, makes you cry, then that's what art does. So that's the fun thing about photography right now. So I've reached a level of capability that I think I'm satisfied with. I'm not really. I shouldn't say that. I'm not satisfied. I think what I go after, and a lot of photographers will tell you this, is the first thing you want to do is catch the eye. Whether it's the eye of a grasshopper or a squirrel or a bird, you want to see the eye, and perfectly clear if you can do that. Then the rest of the bird, people want to see what is it that is so beautiful about a bird. If you take a picture of a bird sitting on a wire and that's all they're doing, sometimes that can be nice. That's a good thing. A lot of people do that, and then that picture of that bird goes into a bird book so to identify that bird, and that's great. But if you really want to get a picture of a bird, try to catch one that's in the mating season, and some birds' color changes when they're in the mating mood, and they have a display. Well, a bird in display, there's nothing more beautiful than that. Any bird, practically, from a turkey to a heron or an egret. And so when you're photographing birds out in nature, that's what you want to do. So you go at certain times of the year when you think that they're going to be in the mood, so to speak, and where there's a lot of them. So the trick is to find out where the rookeries are, go there at a certain time, and if there are certain places in the state of Florida where the birds create rookeries, and I'll just tell you, it's in alligator farms, because the alligators will keep away the ground located, ground-oriented predators that would otherwise climb the tree and get with the bird eggs and all that. So that's not going to happen with gators all around the bottom of the rookery. But they have to be careful about not falling in, or their babies not falling in too. So that's always a risk. So anyway, rookeries over in alligator farms is a great place because the birds have become used to having humans on the walkways, so you can get sometimes really, really close. So that's one way that you can get some really nice pictures. But the interest, I think the public interest in nature is where the picture displays something that they didn't know about that bird. It's the way its feathers are colored, perhaps, or the way they lay on the body of the bird in certain circumstances, and how they can react. Perhaps their chicks, and they're feeding their chicks. You catch them, baby chick, waiting for the food, and the mother about to provide that food. It's a pretty exciting thing, and it's a unique thing. It'll never happen again, exactly like in that same situation. So when you capture that, you've caught a piece of reality that'll never happen again in exactly the same way. In fact, that's the way you need to look at all pictures and all art, all photographs, I should say, when you're taking a picture of anything, because the light never stays the same. Sunrises are never the same. Sunsets are never the same. Every one of them is different, and they change by the second. So you have to be there at the right time, and take more than one picture. People ask me, well, how many photographs do you take on a day? I'll tell you, with digital photography, because you're not messing with film, you're not having to load your camera. You can take thousands of pictures on your phone. So how many pictures do I take in a day? It's not unusual for myself and a friend of mine that we go out on shoots to spend maybe 3 or 4 hours concentrated on that trip, taking pictures at one time, and we'll make 600 or 700 images. Sometimes more than that. I've made as high as almost 1,000. Cameras today are You can tell them to take a series of photographs, let's say 10 photographs, and it can do it within 1 second. So it's like a machine gun kind of a thing. And that's useful because birds or any animal is always moving, and you never know when that animal is going to be in the perfect stance that makes that shot so easy to look at, so desirable to look at, and that says something for you. So if you take a series of shots, you can pick the one out that's the best. So that's why sometimes you can shoot up 1,000 shots, but you're only there for 3 hours. I mean, you're firing away, trying to catch that magic shot. So when you get home and you're doing post-processing, well, how many out of 1,000 shots, my gosh, are you going to try to print all those? No. You throw most of them away or store them away. You may find out of those shots, I would say maybe 5 or 10 shots that are worth putting on Facebook or printing and taking it to your next show, whatever. 5 shots, maybe. And if you're lucky, you get one fantastic shot out of all that. It's worth the trip. My friend and I always talk about that. We're leaving, we've been there for 3 hours. It's so exciting. You see all these things, and you just hope that you've got one shot. I mean, if it's a good shoot, you come away and you feel good about it. And you say it was worth the trip, and that's what it's all about. And interesting happens when you start in the field of photography, and I'm sure this happens with artists who create things. And that is that when you begin, you take pictures, let's say 10 years ago, and you think that those pictures are really good. You're starting out and you think they're really good, so you maybe have a handful of those. Well, fast forward to 5 years from then, and the fact is, you look back and you say, what was I thinking? And I've got stacks of prints over there that are mounted, they're matted, and I've tried to sell them, and I'm embarrassed, that I still have them. I got to get rid of them. So I'm probably going to put them through a shredder of some sort. But so if I had the favorite shot, I don't know that I could say what was my favorite shot, and the reason is because even today, when I feel like I've got a really good shot and I've had all this years of experience to get to where I think that's good, in my opinion, I can go back to photographs that I took 10 years ago, literally 10 years ago, that I rejected. And now, since I'm smarter, right, theoretically, and I've learned more about how to process them, I go back and look at that and I say, wow, I'll take that shot, and put it through again, then they really are nice. And there is one picture like that I'm thinking about. It was taken in Crystal River, and it was of 2 fledgling great blue herons. They were in a nest, but you can't tell from the photograph that they were near a nest. They were in it. But they are excited for some reason. These 2, and I just happened to be, I was with Gary Cool, and we were in a boat and just kind of coasting around behind this island, and I got the shot up underneath them, which perspective and angle is other things that you want to really think about when you take a picture. But anyway, that one picture is something that I've gone back and looked at and reprocessed it. The original file, I've processed it probably 5 or 6 times, and every time I do that, it changes, it morphs, it's better, in my opinion, Well, there are places in Florida, and they're all over the place. If there's a creek near you, or if there's a river near you, that's the place where you're going to find it. But it's not just being there, you have to be there at the right time. And birds and animals are not active during the day, very few of them are. So the best time to do it is early in the morning, daybreak. Daybreak, in any case, or sunset in any case, is always the best time of day. Animals are active. In landscape shots, the light angle is much more definitive. Instead of a bright light coming down like this, you have this wonderful colored light coming up from the horizon or going down in the horizon, and that impacts everything that you see. Anyway, the time of day is important, and where the animals are. In terms of places that we've been, and some great storm shots with cypress trees in the forefront is places like Blue Cypress Lake down in Indian River County. We are planning a trip up in the Panhandle. Lakes, there's a place up there called Dead Lakes. San Blas is a coastal dune kind of a thing, but it's beautiful, beautiful white sands. It has flowers in the sand dunes, and the sand dunes are very, have a lot of definition to them. So you just think about those things and hope that when you get there, you're going to have the light, you're going to have the weather. If it's a bright sunny day, that's not always good. You want something that's a little bit overcast because the light isn't so, the contrast in the photograph itself isn't so great. If you have dark shadows and bright something else, it's hard to bring those two together so that the detail in the photograph is observable. So you want a kind of an overcast day, but not for sunrises and sunsets, of course. You want to see that sun come up, but it's great to have clouds for the sun to be shown through. Shots of something else that's in the picture, not just the sunrise, but you want rocks. You want a lighthouse, for example, a great shot. Everybody loves to take pictures of lighthouses, but if you add a sunrise or a sunset to it with palm trees in the distance and some water, then now you're painting a picture, And if you get the light just right and the colors just right, and you're able to capture that and then reproduce it in a photograph, that's what you're after. You look for in every photograph, what is it that's making that photograph special? If it's an animal that's doing something, then you want that animal to be in perfect, tack sharp focus. With other stuff in the background that may be distracting, not so sharp in focus. If you're taking pictures of a landscape, like I mentioned earlier, you have to look at the total picture and make sure that the balance is right. There's this concept of the thirds, third. You have the sunrise or sunset on a horizon. You don't want the horizon more than a third of the way up in the picture. So that's the thirds concept. Some people don't pay attention to that, and I don't half the time, but sometimes you realize that really is the difference in what makes the picture what it is. I don't know why that is. It's just something that artists have used forever. So that has something to do with what's going to be in the frame. All the components of that picture have to be balanced somehow, or it can be unbalanced if it emphasizes the thing that you want the person that's looking at the picture to see. So, and that it comes back to the individual and what that person wants that picture to say. Color, black and white and color. I never take a picture in black and white. None of these pictures you see in black and white are taken in black and white. And the reason is because Photoshop allows you to change it to black and white, but it's not like here it is in color and here it is in black and white. What it does is it says, okay, I'm going to let you look at this photograph in monochrome, but I'm not going to take away all the color aspects. I can tweak up the green, and it'll change that black and white photograph. Or I can tweak down the green, and it'll lighten that portion of that photograph that was green. It's now dark or something, gray or something. But it goes light or dark. Well, if you've got 7 colors, 7 primary colors, or 8 or 9 or 10 or however it is that Adobe lets you manipulate in there, you can really change that black and white monochrome photograph to make it something more than what it was. You can overdo it. Another aspect is infrared photography, which is a really interesting way to take pictures of landscapes, because it takes green leaves and makes them almost white. It takes other aspects of the photograph and changes their relationship to what you're used to seeing. So it gives it kind of an eerie look, which sometimes is really nice to have and display. Those are the things that you put into the photograph that's valuable to you, and that you think that people are going to see as you do. And if they do, and it gives them the same feeling it gives you, boy, that makes you feel good. That's what it's all about. What are the most important things about becoming a photographer, and what should I do to become a reasonably good photographer? And I think there's several things. One is you really have to understand the function of your camera. So don't just think that you can always keep it on automatic or the P program mode and take all the pictures you want. The more you can change those things, manipulate the camera and tell it what you want, the further along you're going to go. Then you have to be able to do what you want to do with that image, that file, once it's out of the camera, and post-process it. So that means you've got to learn digital programs. I know that's difficult, and a lot of people get discouraged at that point, but if you want to go further with it, then that's what you have to do. You have to learn your camera, you have to learn the post-processing part of it, and then the third thing is to get out and take pictures. Get out there every day, take a picture every day, and don't stop taking pictures. Just keep a camera with you, take them every opportunity. Sometimes it looks silly with a person walking around with a camera. What are they doing? What do they think they're going to take a picture of? Well, there are things out there, and if you just don't pay attention to that, you keep the camera with you, take pictures, and you will see, you will begin to look at light differently. You'll begin to look at composition differently, because you want in that picture certain things out of it, and that's what composition is all about and how it's arranged in that image. So it's light, it's contrast, it's color, all those things. You'll be looking at the world differently once you get to that point as a photographer. Everything I see, I'm looking at it from the point of view of through a camera lens. And I talked to my buddy that we go on trips with, and he says it's the same thing. And he was an engineer. He was never concerned with photography until he retired. And we've been doing this now for almost 10 years, incessantly and constantly and passionately. And it's true. You begin to see things differently. And I'm sure that that's the case with every artist.